All right, what's up, everybody? I was going to jump on and do a recap for you guys. I had a pretty solid morning, quite a few trades. So we're going to do a recap, kind of walk you through my process, what I was thinking, and how I traded these. So first one this morning was TRNR, hit the parabolic scanners. And, I was making a nice leg higher. Not an ideal setup, so I wasn't size super aggressive into this, but I did like this accelerated candle into this extended move. So I started legging in, and then got a nice little pullback, took some profits, and ended up getting out of the position before it made another leg higher, um, with a much better price action, right? Like, look how big this candle was relative to the first leg. Just a nice big price acceleration through highs. And so what I did was I was waiting for the turn on this one, in case I wanted to push higher. I was going to be a little bit more conservative on this and trade the turn. Now, before I go any further, when I'm trading the front side on these, I'm trading much smaller than when I'm trading the turn. These are just feelers, getting involved, kind of seeing what's going to happen. Maybe, we'll get a turn, I'll have some on, just because sometimes you won't get a clean turn to where I can really size into a trade. So I'd rather have a little bit on the front side to make some quick cash flow, if it doesn't set up with a nice turn, right? So this one gave us a little bit of turn size, a little bit more aggressively on it, ended up pushing and holding above this highs. Now what I've been doing is when these small caps go to make a new high, I want them to prove themselves that they're holding these highs, because a lot of times what will happen is they'll push the high a day and fail immediately, hit the stops, on some of the shorts, and then fail, and then it makes the move lower. So I want to give it a little bit of time just to confirm that's holding these prices, which it did, right? So I ended up stopping out up here, and then I saw the tape. It got very heavy again. Sellers were hitting it pretty hard, so I jumped in with them as soon as they saw it turning and rejecting these higher prices. Ended up getting a nice pullback on this, and it kind of chopped out into the open before it made another nice leg lower, where I took a good portion of the trade off. Now I was getting busy. This was the open. I was getting busy looking at other things. I put my stop in at the high day, just to let this play out in case this just wanted to fade away and I could take some profit. And I didn't have to worry about over managing this position while I was looking at other things. And this is why I always emphasize putting hard stops in, because this thing out of nowhere caught a huge bid and ran through high days and halted here. And luckily my stop was just below the halt and I got out before it halted. Uh, Getting stuck in a halt that's going against you is can be really tough, because you have no control over your position, over your risk. This could have gapped up a dollar or two and just ruin your day right off the bat. So I always put your hard stops in and avoid getting stuck in a halt that's going against you. So this one ended up keep going. Made a huge price extension here. I wasn't quite interested in it yet. I know this is a huge candle, but after this halt run and how much volume was coming in and how strong it was, I wanted I wanted to wait for a turn. Okay, so once this made the turn and broke a prior bar lows, I took my short, and then it made another leg higher, which was the fourth or fifth leg higher now on big volume and the largest candle of the day. So I stopped as it was making this big push up, and then I just waited. I was like, I'm going to try this one more time on the turn, and then that will be it. I don't want to get stopped out again. So it ended up giving us a nice turn. I kind of, sellers really rejected this hard over this new highs, and it was coming in hard. So I jumped in with the sellers as it was making the turn, and it just flushed from there and never looked back. Now, unfortunately, this didn't really give a clean ad spot. I mean, in hindsight, this area, through here could have been a good ad. But given how strong this was and how much volume was coming in, I didn't want to get overly aggressive in this spot. Now, if it would have closed back below VWAP and then consolidated, I think that would have been a better look than trying to add to it as it was holding above VWAP. So that was kind of my thoughts here. But given my cost basis, I was in the driver's seat. I could have probably gotten a little bit more aggressive and taken this. I didn't, and just ended up trimming off the position as it moved in my favor. And this ended up being a great all-day fader into the close for a really nice move. But I ended up taking the last of my position off here, kind of at low days, and just moving on from there. for a really nice win. So I think I had, I don't know, 2 or 3 wins, a couple losses on this, but overall very green on the name for today. So that was TRNR. The other one was ONVO. This was on my watch list from this big move here, right? A huge gap up. Just, look what this normally does, and then look what it did on this day. With, had some news, huge move, wide range, multiple ATR move daily. Ended up closing with like a doji candle, and then we had a little gap up today. I was very confident that even if this did make a run, I was figuring it would be a shortable run. After a move like this, a ton of volume and indecision, you're likely going to get a reversal the following day. So that was on my watch. I didn't trade it pre-market. I wanted to see this kind of prove itself and give me a setup to trade, because this wasn't like a setup like the TRNR, right? It wasn't making a strong run to go parabolic. This was like a parabolic on the daily. So you got to give yourself some setups to trade in order to get involved. And what I liked about this one was it opened below VWAP and made multiple attempts to push over VWAP, and they all failed. Okay, once I started seeing that, I started to put on my short position, and as it worked in my favor, I added to it. Excuse me. So once I saw it rejecting for the third time, I started my position. When it made the turn and broke the prior bar lows, I added. And then I added for the third time. My idea here was, obviously, my thought was it was going to break lows and we're going to get a fade throughout the day as a good short. How it was trading, though, I was worried that it was going to make a big flush through lower days and I wouldn't get a good price. So I kind of front-runned the break and took my third ad just before it broke lower days. And it ended up breaking lower day, and it wasn't a crazy flush, so I would have been able to get a good fill. But I just wasn't sure, so I kind of jumped the gun on it. Anyways, it ended up kind of consolidating for a little bit before it made a nice big flush lower where I started covering my position, and then it kind of just trended lower where I was covering into the move. Now, I don't know where this is going to stop, right? So when I have a trailer on, I usually will trail it against, depending on how it's trading, but usually I'll trail it against a break of trend, right? So here we are getting back above the 10-day and breaking the previous lower high here. So I saw this going on. There was lots of moving in the morning. I was like, I'll just cut it here, take my win, and move on. Ended up fading for the rest of the day and had a really nice move, and is still selling off into the post market. So this is a really nice trade. Ended up working out well, and made some good money on this one. All right. Let's see what else we had was Meta. So you guys were already, or a lot of you already were in Meta. I think you guys were trading calls yesterday. So this is just a really big move. Look where it came in the last week. From all-time highs, down 100 points basically, and we put in this big reversal candle here into this extension. So my thought was, all right, if this gets a good setup, I think this could be a good bounce candidate for a long today. I was also watching Amazon, some very similar setup. It just didn't give a good setup today to get long on for me. So Meta was my go-to on this. And the action out of the open wasn't anything spectacular. It was pretty choppy. We finally ended up getting a little push higher over VWAP. And then this started happening, this consolidation. We started getting buys off the 10-day, off the VWAP. It was just proving itself that it was holding higher. Okay, and we were getting this nice level here at the high of day. And so when I saw this going on, I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this through the high of day if this breaks out. And it ended up doing that. So I got long, and I just trimmed into the move as it moved my favor. Made a really nice leg higher here. I could have been aggressive and added on this pullback. Wasn't totally sold that the market was strong or going to maintain its strength today. So I just kind of took what I could get out of it with my initial position. So this ended up working out really well. It ended up stopping out here as it kind of petered out. I figured we'd get a deeper pullback, but ended up making a little bit higher of a move before we got a deeper pullback. And just ended up being a nice win. I wasn't planning on like swinging this or anything. It was just a cash flow trade. So I took it as it came to me, and made some pretty nice money, pretty easy money on this trade, right? Like I was buying it at the high of day. I was going to stop around here at the low of this pivot, and obviously this thing never looked back and made a really nice run into like the 10:30, 11 o'clock time frame. So good trade here, and this is just a good example of structuring a trade, looking for setups, looking for price action to prove itself to you before getting involved, right? Like none of this in these first few candles told me anything, right? I needed to see more to get involved. You could have bought through high day here, but this was very choppy. This wasn't a very good signal to me. I wanted to see something a little bit more. And when I started seeing these buyers step in against VWAP in the 10-day, that's telling me more. That's giving me more information for my thesis to get long, right? And then it gave me my trigger, had my stop, and I was able to structure the trade fairly easily into a nice win, okay? So that was Meta, and then I also had Tesla had this really sharp move out of nowhere. Okay, so and Tesla's been beat down like crazy. We're on like the third leg of this big downtrend. We're starting to get sharper. We're starting to get wider daily ranges, and we've come into some pretty big pivots on the daily. So I was interested in this for a long if it gave us a good setup. Ended up giving a really good setup with this sharp move lower. I just got kind of lucky getting really close. I think I was only 10 cents off the bottom. I saw this happening, and the idea is I was going to leg into this. This is a very sharp move, especially in a large cap name. Okay, these are wide range candles, big move. So I started with my initial position here, and I was looking to add more into this if it would have kept going. Ended up getting the bounce over the next couple candles, so I was making some pretty easy money, pretty easy cash flow into this. And as I was in the trade, I was thinking of the bigger picture, and I wanted to see if I could hold this for maybe a swing where I could trade around the position and see if we can get into the a bounce over the coming days, given the daily structure of this chart. Ended up adding to it up here, kind of a little bit of an aggressive add. It didn't really pull back, but I liked it. It looked good, and ended up getting the bounce all the way back in the view app where I took a little bit more off. And the thought was I wanted to see this hold. I wanted to see it get back above VWAP before I added any more to confirm the strength and confirm that buyers were starting to step in and hold this higher. And it just didn't happen. It couldn't reclaim VWAP. And, all morning, it couldn't get above it after making this sharp move. So I was like, all right, I'll stop out of the balance at about break even once it kind of broke this trend of these higher lows. And stopped out and ended up flushing lower throughout the day. So the thought now with Tesla is, sorry, is that we're 6 days into this like third or fourth leg on the downtrend, and just we're starting to get oversold on a lot of metrics, a lot of different ways to look at it. And so I'm trying to get involved with this to catch the bounce when it happens. So the first thing I did today, after that trade, was I sold some puts on the 260s for this week. There was some good premium on it, and the idea here is I'm fine if this trades down to 260 and I get exercise on them by the end of the week. I think that's a good cost average, because if you think about it, like if we close below 260 by Friday, that's only 2 days. That's a huge move from here to here in a week. That's a huge move. So if I can buy some at 260, I'm very okay with that because we have a lot of upside from there, right? Like this is a big extension if we're all the way down into 260 with just 2 more days left to go into the on those calls or puts. So I sold the 260s. I'm fine if I have to buy them. If not, it's going to be a pretty easy cash flow. I'll just capture the premium if it bounces before then, or all I needed to do is to close above 260 by Friday, and I'll cash all the premium on those puts. Otherwise, I'll be buying them, and honestly, that would probably be a really good look if I did put that stock, because this could have a really nice bounce once it starts to set in. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's kind of my idea with Tesla. I will, be looking to trade this with stock too. If this gaps down tomorrow, I'll definitely be interested in trading this with stock as well, and maybe even selling some more options with further out strikes, maybe the 250s or so. So we'll see how this plays out. But some really good trades today. Probably one of my better days this month. And yeah, it just worked out. Everything was played out nicely today. I think so. Snow had earnings today. They did really well. This is really good earnings price structure, right? And we get a sharp move, and we're kind of holding the higher end of this range. So tomorrow when we wake up, we'll see if this is holding and if this can give us some kind of continuation move higher. So that will be on my radar. Nvidia's earnings were pretty good. The margins weren't great. It's just the price action is terrible. I don't even know. I mean, obviously this will be on my radar tomorrow. I just don't know. It's not like I'm very excited to trade this. This is very choppy action. They have their conference call, I think, coming up, so maybe that will give us a boost one way or another. But right now, this is pretty poor price action. So we'll see how it looks in the morning and see if it can give us any kind of setup to trade. All right, so that was pretty much my day, and yeah, good day. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Catch you guys in the room.